Hello, this is Alpine Lumber's Hours of Service and Paper Logbooks training. CDL drivers working for Alpine Lumber will occasionally be required to fill out paper logs. This short presentation with the quiz at the end will help ensure you're doing it correctly. Some of our drivers use a free app called Keep Truckin', so they don't actually have to write in the paper logbooks, but you still need to understand why and how, even if you use the Keep Truckin' app. Your paper logbooks may look something like this. Why don't we always fill out paper logs or use the electronic logging devices known as ELDs? Alpine Lumber meets the short haul exemption requirements. What does that mean to you? The short haul exemption is when a company meets all of the following requirements. Drivers start and finish their day in the same location, which we'll call your home base. Drivers do not work more than 12 hours a day. Drivers do not go outside of a 100 air-mile radius from their home base. Now, there are exceptions to this rule, which is when we use the paper logbooks. The exceptions are allowed 8 times in a 30-day period for each driver. Exception number 1 is for a driver that works more than 12 hours in a given day. On these days, you'll have to fill out a paper log. Remember, you can do this up to 8 times in a 30-day period. Exception number 2 is for a driver that goes outside of the 100 air-mile radius. Again, drivers are allowed to do this up to 8 times in 30 days, but you have to fill out the logbook when it happens. Sometimes driving outside the 100 air-mile radius and working more than 12 hours will happen on the same day. It counts for one of your 8 times in 30 days. How do you fill out a logbook correctly? There's a lot of required information. Please ensure all logs are complete and accurate. This is part of being a professional driver at Alpine Lumber. We expect thorough and true information. The first requirement by DOT is that logbooks must be filled out in the driver's own hand. Someone else cannot fill out your logbook for you. Okay, let's start at the top. Date of travel and the company you drive for are required. The address of your home base is next. You can put the corporate address here. If you put the corporate address, then you also need to put your home base address. For this example, I've chosen the Montrose yard as my home base. Drivers must sign their logs. DOT requires that if you have a co-driver, you must list that person's name. The truck and trailer identifiers are the Alpine unit numbers. And then, of course, put in the miles you drove for that day. Now we move down to the graph. In this example, the drive is from Montrose to Buena Vista and back. You have 12 hours to get your logbook caught up, so you can always do this at the end of your day if that's most convenient. I clock in at 6 a.m. and from 6 to 7 I perform pre-trip inspections, get the load prepared, secured, maybe I attend morning meetings or have other duties. From 7 to 11:30 I'm driving. From 11:30 to 1 I'm in Buena Vista, and from 1 to 5:30 I drive back to Montrose. From 5:30 to 7 I complete my post-trip inspection and complete any other required duties for the day. Notice I have 11.5 hours off duty. The only off-duty hours are those where you have no work-related duties and no responsibility for the truck or its contents. The total time must add up to 24 hours. In the remarks section, you're required to note any change of duty status. At a minimum, you must indicate the city and state. If you don't leave your home base town, you can place a continuous line across on duty for the day. It would look something like this. Please don't use this method if you go out of your hometown. If we get audited by DOT, they will check. Only use this method if you're really staying local for the day. The last item that's required by DOT is the line that says shipper and commodity. You can put Alpine Lumber on this line. You can fill in the lines at the bottom indicating to and from. Some drivers just put local to local, but this isn't required by DOT. Here's an example of an Alpine Lumber driver with a perfect logbook. He obviously takes pride and treats his profession seriously. Okay, so let's do a recap before your quiz. Why and when do Alpine Lumber drivers fill out paper logbooks? We meet the short haul exemption, which says we start and finish in the same location every day, we don't work more than 12 hours a day, and we don't go outside a 100 air mile radius. When you work more than 12 hours a day, you fill out a logbook. You can do it up to 8 times in 30 days. When you go outside the 100 air mile radius from your home base, you fill out a paper log, so long as you don't do this more than 8 times in 30 days. What is required? It's required that logbooks are complete and accurate. Fill out all information, including your signature and each location in the remarks section. Make sure your total hours add up to 24. This is your profession, and Alpine Lumber is paying you for your time to complete these logbooks. Please take the time to ensure they are complete and true. It's now time to take your quiz.